YouTube, welcome back to Maxwell Stars Beer Review. Tonight we've got something extra special. Gonna take a look at another beer from Big Tide Brewery. What's so special about this one? Well, this is the much anticipated joint brew between Big Tide Brewing here in St. John and Acadie Brew of Moncton, New Brunswick. Monkey, New Brunswick, yes. Monkey Island. Monkey Town, yes. This one is really special because I guess what happened is that the master brewer of Acadie Brewery, Pat Godden, came down and did a joint beer, or actually brewed beer for Big Tide here in St. John. If you've never heard of Acadie Brew before, they've recently gained some pretty big fame, even though they are a very small nano brew operation, with their brew called La Bring, which just won a bronze award for the North American Amber Red Ale style category in the Canadian Brewing Awards just last year. So they've actually got a really good thing going for them, even though they're very small. And I'm not even sure exactly how long they've been around for, like 2010, 2011 maybe, I'm not sure. They're basically just a small brew pub operating out of a former laundromat in Moncton, New Brunswick, not far from where the Pump House Brewery and the restaurant is. If you've ever watched some of my other reviews, you might have seen some of my Pump House reviews. Anyway, I could enjoy tonight's beer out of my Big Tide glass, but I'm not, because this one's so special. I'm going to use my my snifter. Why? Because this one is Big Tide and Acadie Brew's special joint beer, the La Gaboteuse Belgian IPA. So I am incredibly stoked over this one because it sounds so good. I mean, I didn't know what they were brewing or what they were up to at first until I saw it pop up on their Facebook, and my jaw dropped as soon as I saw what type of beer that was they made. And pretty much as soon as I heard of it, I ran down and grabbed a growler. Now, I haven't had a chance to review this for, well, I've had it for 2 days in the fridge now, so I'm hoping it's pretty good. Still good. But we're about to find out. Ooh, on there tight. Oh, there's not a lot of fizz coming off of that. Well, we'll give it a pour here. Hopefully I won't get too much condensation on my shirt. Now, I've had a number of Belgian IPAs before. I had the special mashup beer between Garrison and Phillips they released last summer. And I've also had the Dominus Vobiscum Lupulus from La Brasserie de Charlevoix in Quebec, which was also phenomenal. So I know a little bit of what to expect. So looking at this, I'm not going to count this too much against it because it doesn't have a whole lot of head. Because I've had this in the fridge. Who knows, I might end up redoing this if I find another growler. Mainly because a little bit of carbonation could have escaped. And I don't think Big Tide does force carbonate for their pouring system. They just basically force air through it. But they don't do a whole lot of it. And the earlier you get it, the flatter it's going to be. So looking at that, it does have a clear, so not clear, it's an unfiltered beer. It's got this like a cloudy, almost pear juice kind of appearance where it's kind of bright. It's brighter than I expected. Where it's like a peach yellow color. Almost straw. A little bit of carbonation coming up the sides there, but not a whole lot. It looks good, although it's not as dark as I was expecting from a Belgian IPA. Now essentially what a Belgian IPA is, it's an IPA made with it's an IPA made off of a base of like a Belgian-style triple or a strong pale ale. It comes in at 7.4% ABV. So, let's give it a sniff. What is that? It's got some kind of strange fruity smell I've smelled before. It smells like fresh oranges. That's cool. Slow it down here. It smells like fresh oranges in the morning with pulp, maybe a little bit of grapefruit. That's really nice. maybe just mildly sweet. But there's not really a heavy amount of aroma coming off of that. And that may be because of the lack of carbonation. But what I do get there is nice. Maybe just a tiny hint of like sulfur. But whatever, it does smell good. Just check and see what we have for time. Alright, let's put it down the hatch. Not bad. It's citrusy and piney, and basically in the back of the throat. It's got a very almost grapefruit pine kind of taste. It's like a hop taste, and it sticks to the back of the throat. But on the tongue, you get those nice fruit flavors of like peach, orange, your sweet malt tastes, and a nice toasted barley grain that comes out in the very back. And that toasted barley grain kind of irradiates from the very back of the throat, which is actually kind of nice. Got a very nice sweet, like a brown sugar taste in the lingers in the top. Let's see, let's do an analysis here. It's sweet, fruity on the tip of the tongue. Not a whole lot of taste in the tip of the tongue. It's mainly centered on the middle. Like I said, there's that hoppy, citrusy and piney taste lingers in the center of the tongue, along with some of the sweetness, and on the roof of the back of the mouth. It finishes nice and dry, and as it dries out, it sort of gives you that irradiating grain, like a toasted grain flavor, which is really nice. That's tasty. The carbonation gives it probably a heavier kind of mouthfeel than you would probably normally expect to get from a Belgian IPA, but it does have that kind of thick, hearty body you would expect from a Belgian strong pale ale or a triple, more closer to a triple, I guess. Except maybe not quite as complex. That's very good. Alright, I'm going to sit down with this one for a bit and come back with some thoughts. Be right back. And we're back with Big Tide and Acadie Brews Belgian style IPA. So, what did I think about this particular beer? Nom nom nom. This is actually quite good. The best part I think about this beer is that it's both delicious and it's also made right here in St. John by two major New Brunswick brewers. This is actually a pretty great showing from our folks that live around here. I'm really proud of it. What do I think in a professional manner about this beer, though? It's very good. It's almost coming across to me as being not quite as big of a beer that I would have expected from a Belgian-style IPA. But that's not a huge slight about it. Maybe it's because it's gone a little flat. Maybe it's because it doesn't have as much carbonation as I would have expected. I doubt it. I'm more thinking like it's a little thinner than I would expect. But that's really like plucking at small hairs here. This is actually, I find, really delicious. It's got those nice tropical flavors, a little hint of piney note in the hops that linger in the back of the mouth. It's got a very nice sweet malty flavor that kind of indicative and you know, characteristic of the style of Belgian style IPA. When I compare this to the other two IPAs, Belgian IPAs that I've had, the Dominus Vobiscum Lupulus and the mashup from Garrison and Phillips, their Belgian style IPA, I'm almost thinking I like this about as much as the Garrison. It's hard to compare against what's considered to be one of the best beers in Canada when you think about the Charleroi. But I gotta say that this is actually quite impressive, and probably something that ought to be bottled at some point. The only thing I could describe on this beer as being a slightly off-putting is that little hint of sulfur that I get off of it. It smells like somebody farted in it. But it's only there. You catch a whiff of it in 1 second and then it's gone. That's the only downside of this one, other than being a little thin, that I can think of, because it's actually quite, decently complex with the fruit flavors, the tropical flavors. But there's some things that probably could be changed. But thinking of it this way, right? Oh. Anyway, thinking of it this way, it's very impressive to have it like this, since it's a one-off and only brewed once, and it's basically the Acadie Brewmaster's first experience with the brewing equipment over at Big Tide. Like, Big Tide's operation, I mean, they're a small microbrewery, like brew pub, that they have, their fermenters are about 300 liters in size, whereas when they explained it to me over at Big Tide, Acadie Brew is basically, their fermenter is inside of a standard refrigerator and it's about 60 liters inside. They brew a very small batch, like every so often, and they got a small operation. So really, I mean, there is probably a learning curve to do in there as well. I'm only speculating at this point, but I think that they do some great work, and I'd be excited to try some more beers from Acadie Brew. Just because, well, as the interest as a bit of a beer fan and a fan of local beers as well, I think I'd really like to try some of the other stuff that they had, especially their award-winning La Bring. La Gaboteuse is a nice pleasure to try as well, and if you're in St. John and you get a chance to actually get down there and taste this before it's gone, I would definitely recommend it. And I think that they really, really should be brewing this again at some point, because it's too good to pass up. It's not as mind-blowingly great as the joint beer from Greg Nash and Big Tide, which was the Tidal Wave Double IPA, which friggin' blew my mind. It was so good. But this one, also good. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Just a flat 4 out of 5. Very good. I'd like to see it again, and I would get into growlers again, just because this is a quality premium beer that you like from a local brew pub. It's not your standard orthodox beer like you would get, like your standard India Pale Ale or Pale Ale or a lager or something like that. It's something to sit down and sip and enjoy. So it is going to be a bit different for some people, but this is a nice, decently big beer that I would really love to have in my fridge. And I wish the Big Tide and Acadie Brew the best, because I'd really like to see this stuff again. Excuse me. Anyway, I think that's it for me right now. Thanks for watching Maxwell Stars Beer Reviews. Hope you enjoyed watching my review of Big Tides and Acadie Brew's La Gaboteuse Belgian IPA. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you guys later. Cheers.